Hi fellow Canadians, maple syrup lovers, poutine eaters, Don Cherry haters. My name is Salma Hindy. Today, I'm here to talk to you all about Quebec. I don't know if you've been living under a rock or hoping that if you ignore it enough, it'll go away, like me with the dishes, but there is a big crisis happening in Quebec right now. Most of you may know Quebec because of Montreal, the city with amazing churches, architecture, poutine, comedy festival, and awful winters. But this winter, something worse than negative 45 degrees Celsius and 50 centimeters of snow has befallen the province. And that is Bill 21, Quebec's secularism or laïcité law. This bill was put forth by the current Premier of Quebec, François Legault, who is the leader of the Coalition Avenir Quebec. Back in June, the CAQ passed Bill 21 intended to eradicate religious symbols in most of the public sector. After a long debate, the bill went through banning teachers, police officers, judges, and many other professionals from wearing religious symbols like hijabs, turbans, kippas, and crucifixes in the course of their duties. Which means, currently, no religious symbols are allowed in schools according to this bill. Which is ironic because the Quebec flag itself, which is all over schools, has multiple crosses on it. So, explain me. So what even is a religious symbol? Let's talk about it. Is it a scarf, a beard? Well, as of now, it is not clear what religious symbols are. Crosses are apparently not symbols. If you are a woman in Quebec, you cannot wear hijab, but you can wear a scarf if it is fashion. The scarf that you wear when you drive in a convertible, that's fine. But if you wear it when you want to pray, then you're in trouble. Quebec. Racism, but make it fashion. And recently, Malala Yousafzai came and visited Quebec, and the education minister took a photo with her, but then later said she would not be allowed to be a teacher in Quebec. Malala, a champion for education who can't educate. The CAQ has been notoriously unjust to Muslims. This government has conveniently said that they don't believe Islamophobia or racism is a real thing. They have refused to recognize January 29th as the date of the Quebec mosque shooting. And when that same mosque just got recently attacked again, the Muslim community asked for increased police protection and the CAQ said no. One of the most dangerous parts of the bill is how it came about. The Bill 21 evokes the notwithstanding clause, which is a very dangerous thing to evoke. The bill disproportionately targets Muslim women who wear the hijab, and when called out for this, the government's response was, well, just take it off. What's the problem? Which is a real thing an oppressive man would say to his wife, that he's abusing every single night. And real people have already lost their jobs. Yeah, this is not just a theory anymore. It's happening. Amrit Kaur, a 28-year-old Sikh teacher who previously worked in Quebec, has moved to British Columbia to continue her career after the implementation of Bill 21 meant that she could no longer teach while wearing her turban. She said, because of this bill, I've had to leave my home. She said, I'm treated as second class just because I have a faith and I like to express my faith through visual outward manifestations. Noor Farhat, a 28-year-old lawyer who recently graduated, can't fulfill her dream of becoming a prosecutor for the Crown because she wears hijab. She says that because of Bill 21, the Quebec government shut the door on her dreams. These are real young women whose careers and livelihoods are being affected by the bill, not to mention the dozens of other women who have already lost their jobs because of this. Quebec government out here quite literally creating a glass ceiling. Nay, a concrete ceiling. They're actually cementing women out of a promotion. White people really out here getting mad at women of color for being oppressed and not allowed to work and then do this? So the person responsible for sending Muslim women out of the workforce and back into the kitchen turns out to be a white man. And that's the irony of all this. Muslim women are painted to be both a victim and a villain, and yet somehow the only people who don't have a say in this are religious minorities themselves. Do you realize this is happening in Canada? Like, if this was happening somewhere else in a dictatorship halfway across the world, it would be understandable. But this is happening in your own backyard. Canada is in its early stages of turning into Alabama, and we're all just here watching. And it's not just Muslim women. Anti-Semitism is absolutely affecting this law. A Jewish person in a kippah can't be a minister of justice. The Holocaust was only 60 years ago, and now descendants of Holocaust survivors, if they wear a kippah, can't be a teacher or police officer or prosecutor in the province of Quebec. Other lobby groups aside from NCCM have tried to file an appeal against the government. For example, English Montreal School Board, EMSB, filed a complaint because they're losing qualified teachers. Yeah, that's right. Did you hear that? Muslim women are qualified. Minorities are an asset and not a burden. EMSB lawyers argue that Bill 21 was primarily designed with Islam in mind. And you know what the government's response was? It was to hit the union with an audit to punish them for standing up to them. Is this Quebec or Frown? Like, is this Joffrey from Game of Thrones? I have a lot of questions. Had Jagmeet Singh won the election and become the prime minister of the country, he wouldn't have been able to work in Quebec. Where did Quebec get inspired to invent this bill from, you might wonder? Well, turns out they drew inspiration from France, the country they so desperately want to be like, even though all of France will never accept them because they think Quebec's accent is garbage. This is like Drake trying to constantly win back Rihanna. Like, bro, it's never gonna happen. Just give up. This bill has been branded as and referred to as a secularism law, but secularism would never mean discrimination. Removing religious symbols from people is not neutral. It might work in theory, but a neutral state, a true neutral state, doesn't discriminate. The Quebec government is becoming like the Spanish Inquisition. The same Spanish Inquisition, which would have to establish whether a person is religious or not, and then would burn them out on the streets. This is the Quebec government, except in reverse. This bill is going to be extremely harmful for marginalized communities. These marginalized folks are going to be pushed to the corners, and they're going to end up forming their own communities as a result of being excluded. And then the whites are going to be even more mad, and they're going to be like, why aren't they assimilating? Excuse me, why do you think? This is what happened in France. Algerian communities have begun getting pushed into a corner, thrown to the margins of society, and their communities have developed severe poverty and high crime. And people in France are looking at this and being like, oh, why is this happening? And now they think the solution is just to be even more strict with religious freedom. But all this is a toxic cycle. Other provinces and municipalities have even denounced the bill. They've passed motions condemning the law, which is very rare for other provinces to do. Manitoba, for example, took out ads in Quebec welcoming Muslims to their province. They said, come on over, we respect personal rights and freedoms, we don't police clothes here. They also said, come on over Muslims, we have homebrew beer. Which, I mean, they missed the mark a little, but like we appreciate the gesture. But even with all these provinces and municipalities condemning the bill, despite all of that, instead of Quebec saying, maybe, maybe I should reflect. Instead they were like, nope, stay out of it, let me abuse my wife and children in peace. In school, we were taught that anyone who used the notwithstanding clause in a non-emergency situation would be naturally overthrown by the voters immediately. But no one is being overthrown here, which is shocking. This bill sets an extremely dangerous precedent for what can follow. Soon, the government will be able to evoke this notwithstanding clause at anything they get bored at or intolerant of. For example, unions. Aren't those annoying and a nuisance to the government? Let's overturn those. They can use this clause to get rid of mosques, to get rid of LGBTQ rights to marry, to get rid of every single one of your rights if it's no longer trendy or beneficial to the government. We are in an actual existential legal crisis, and this is why NCCM cannot fail. So what can you do about all this? Well, first of all, learn about what's happening. Get educated, read up, and think critically. Share this video with family and friends who don't know what's going on, and follow other groups who are actively working on bringing justice to the forefront. This includes NCCM, of course, but also the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, World Sikh Organization, and Coalition Inclusion Quebec. And do your best in this time, in this very, very crucial time, to be an ally. Thank you so much. I've been Salma Hindy.